So I'd like to bring up Magdalena Anea. She's part of my leadership team. But before that, I want to actually welcome two of our executive board members. Anna, do you want to say hi? Anna's here. Anna Slagle. And Sylvia Avery is also here. I think I saw Erica also from the board. Erica, do you want to stand up? Avery is also here. Okay, Erica as well. Erica, do you want to stand up? Yeah, awesome. I also want to introduce to you, was there anyone else from the board here at all? I think nobody else can make it tonight. I also want to introduce you to two new members of our Silicon Valley leadership team. First, we have Yasmin Vanya. Want to stand up? Yasmin? And Chiara Fornaseco. Is that right? Almost. Fornasero. All right, I'm learning. So you guys, they're new members to our leadership team, which we organize all the events for Silicon Valley. So we do have two other members, which are, unfortunately, they cannot be here tonight. One is Sabine, who was from eBay, and she's our mentoring manager, as well as Hannah she was from Box, and she is our social media manager. Unfortunately, they couldn't join us tonight. All right, so our membership, we have some exciting news, and I'd like Magdalena to share that. All right, so our membership, we have some exciting news, and I'd like Magdalena to share that. Get up there. Oh, can you?
So I just wanted to point out a little bit the development of our membership. Basically, all of us here, and then some.
Put up here.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm not a great public speaker, as you can tell. So we started, of course, after the board decided that they wanted to concentrate on the global organization. We started a local chapter, the Silicon Valley chapter. And it's true, we didn't start at all from zero like all other chapters. We started with a list of emails and of names, and we set up shop in Meetup. And this was our development. We started on July 16th, and until today, I must tell you that the 525 is already outdated. We have 530 members as of this afternoon. So in 2016, we acquired, so to say, 225 members. And a year later, we added 260 members. And just in the 2 months, January and February, we already have 45 additional members, which brings us to an average of about 26 new members each month. And we thank all of you for joining, for participating, because the members are all of us. Good. So who are we actually? What's our structure? We played the numbers, and 35% are from the client side, 27% from the LSP side, just 4% from nonprofits, but students are also, of course, from the university. That's also a nonprofit. The majority of the students come from, of course, MIS. I think they're very well represented tonight, too. And the independents we made a category for them. They are mostly linguists, but also some consultants. So this is who we are. And we hope to continue this way. We thank you very much for your attention and for your presence. I forgot an important part. So our board does not only have to take care of us, but of course, globally. And it's really global all over the world. So we just have to announce that we have to transition from Meetup to Eventbrite. The details are to follow. Please watch out for our invitation. So for our next event, you're going to receive an invitation through Eventbrite. Your data is already in. We have imported it. I strongly encourage everybody who doesn't have their full details in Meetup to go back to their profile and put it in, and especially the email address. Until now, we could correspond with you via Meetup. Now this will no longer be possible after a while. So in order to still have you in our records, to still invite you, please make sure you have at least your email in Meetup, from where we export all this. Thank you very much.
So thank you, everybody. On behalf of Women in Localization, we are 4,000 members. We are in 14 countries, or 14 locations. The latest site that we are opening, the latest chapter that we're opening is in Warsaw, in Poland. If anybody's going to Locworld there, so you will, we made sure that, you know, we have the coincidence that we're opening there. We're also starting to split China into different areas. As you can imagine, China has an incredible amount of growth there. Thank you to the ladies, you know, that took over on the Silicon Valley chapter. And the same way that Michelle and Magdalena took on owning a new chapter, we have consistently openings for different roles inside of the organization. So if anybody would like to raise their hand and volunteer, we have many, many different jobs, many different executive committees where you can participate as an individual, as a director, training for leadership. There's mentoring, there's memberships, there's partnerships, there's marketing. So if you're looking at learning a new trade, you can also do that through Women in Localization. There is a page on the website with all the open jobs there. There's a page on the website with all the open jobs. They're all volunteer jobs. There's an all volunteer organization, okay? The other thing to say is we are going to celebrate our 10th year anniversary this year with a huge party where you're gonna have to buy a dress. So it's most likely gonna be in the fall, but get ready for a nice party, okay? So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, so now on to the most important of the piece of the event, which is our International SEO panel. I'm very excited about the panel. I'd like to introduce Eli Swartz, who is our SEO director here at SurveyMonkey. Eli has a very large international background. He opened our first APAC office in Singapore for SurveyMonkey a couple of years back. He was also the director of international marketing for a few years here at SurveyMonkey. So Eli, why don't you come forward?
Thank you, Michelle. So I know I'm in the minority here tonight and I stick out like a sore thumb, but even though I'm not a localization person, I do identify very strongly with localization, and as Michelle said, I work closely with Michelle and I was on the international team. So I spent some time in Singapore. I'm very sensitive to the efforts localization has on international SEO, and some of my greatest wins have had to do with changing the actual words we use. So we have an amazing panel tonight. I'm only gonna talk for 2 minutes and then we're gonna go to Q&A. We have questions for Q&A, but if there are things you wanna know about SEO, I'm gonna be sitting off to the side so you can come ask me or tell Michelle or email Michelle, and then we'll have that later in the Q&A. And each of the panelists will speak for 10 minutes. So we have an amazing panel tonight. First, we're gonna have Uli. Uli is an SEO manager at McKesson. And then Allison will come up. Allison is an international program manager at Adobe. And then Josh from Tableau. And finally, we have Laura, who's an SEO consultant at Netflix. So great evening for you guys, ton of learning. Hopefully the Q&A, you'll get all your questions answered. Any questions you don't get answered, people will be around afterwards to ask. So with that, I'm gonna bring up our first speaker, Uli.
Hi everyone, my name is Uli Münker. I currently work at McKesson, which is healthcare, mostly B2B. And before that, I worked at Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg, very heavily on also in international sites. So my role at the beginning now is to give you a very basic overview, like an introduction to SEO, and my colleagues then continue with very international sites or very international knowledge about SEO. So, doesn't work. Here we go. So, what is, just in general, to get you all on the same page, what is SEO? It's really the search engine optimization. And it's part of marketing, and it's basically optimizing a website from a technical and content perspective with a goal to get that site higher in the search engine rankings. And it's not really only about getting the traffic, it's really making sure you get the good quality and the quantity of the traffic. It's both, because you want to get the good visitors who not quickly leave the site, but who stay on your site and purchase or become a lead. So when you talk about SEO, the quick thing that comes up here is it's really search engine marketing. That is the overarching theme there. SEO is one part of the search engine marketing, which is basically split into SEO and PPC. So SEO is really the thing that we're only talking about tonight. It is also called organic traffic. Generally, it is free, it is lasting, but you need to do something about this. You need to do the work. The con is, for doing this, it's often hard to measure. So we SEOs, we work on something, and yeah, some weeks later you can see the result, but at the same time it's possible that something else on the website breaks. So then, you know, where is the result of the work that you did? It's sometimes hard to measure. So the other discipline, the PPC, this is the pay-per-click. And this is something you invest money, you buy it, you buy the ads in Google or the other search engines, and you show up there on top of the page. It is a relatively quick setup, and you show up there until you run out of money. That's simple as that. But generally, it's much quicker to see the results because you get the analytics. So to understand the search results page, to really see the difference between what is the organic and what is the paid search, here you can see the top part here. This is always symbolized there with these ads. This is the pay-per-click. Further down, this is the area where you show up with the search engine optimization work that we all work on. So generally, the difference between pay-per-click and SEO is, you probably know it from your own behavior. You more likely click on the SEO, on the organic results down there, because we all know it is organic. So when you look at a website, by far the organic search makes the majority. Throughout all industries is about 51% comes from organic search versus 14% of all website traffic is from paid search. But again, this is all industry. This is a total average. And if you look at the different industries, you can see that nonprofit, for example, has relatively low in terms of organic traffic versus B2B, B2C is a lot higher. So that you see healthcare, pharmaceuticals, 73% is roughly as the average that comes from organic traffic. So to move on, there is a difference also in terms of the countries. So you would always think, Google is everywhere. And actually worldwide, it's about, 85 to 90% it has market share for Google, really worldwide. But generally there is, in some countries, there's a difference. For example, Russia, you should really heavily focus on Yandex, Naver, South Korea. So these are the different search engines that are more prominent there. Baidu in China and Yahoo in Japan. So generally, they are pretty similar in terms of what are the rules from those search engines or what we SEOs pay attention to. but there are some slight nuances, and I think one of us will go into this. So if it comes to SEO, there's really the three main players: the users, the search engines, and the SEO. So the users are really just people all over the world who search in Google and the other search engines. And obviously they expect the best result, that Google comes back with the best result that the user expects. If they don't get this, they get disappointed, and Google doesn't want that. So then there's the search engines, companies like Google. But at the end of the day, search engines, they are machines, and they are dumb. So we, as the SEOs, make it easier for the search engines to find what we have on our websites, so that Google then can deliver the best results to the user, which makes the user happy. So it's, at the end of the day, the SEO is really about the help to make the connection between users finding the best pages and search engines to find it on our websites. It's not about gaming the system. That is often a very common misconception. So generally, we all want to rank high. That's what I said earlier. You know, we want to generate high traffic, high, good quality leads. And when I say we want to rank high, is we want to rank on page 1, in position 1. And so this generates the highest click-through rate. You can see there on the left side, if you're in position 1, you have about in the 20% of click-through rate. So top page in Google. On average, is about 43% click on the top three organic rankings on a search results page. So that's what we work on, that we want to have our website listed there. And what I mean with the click-through rate is, just for clarity, it's, you know, when you click on something in Google and then you go to a page. Okay, so how do you get there to that first page? That is the big question. And there is a lot of factors. There is about over 200 factors that go into this. It is really make the page accessible so that the search engines can really understand what the page is about. Do keyword research, you know, what is the page? Make it clear from a writing perspective. Have enough links to the page. So links is really when you click on something and then it points to that page. And then social at the end of the day. So I cannot go into the full details, but there is a lot that go into this. It's not just having keywords on the entire page again and again and again. That would be weird. And it actually, that could create a penalty. So when I talk about when search engines are dumb and when they crawl a page, this is really that search engines send out their spiders, robots, crawlers, whatever you want to call it, and then they go to a page and they go every link that they find, from the navigation to whatever you can click on. They crawl the entire website that they find. They keep it in their memory, whatever they found, whatever they read about, keep it in their memory, and they take notes then, whatever they found. And then they put it then into their large database, and when we as a searcher search for something, they quickly go into their memory and find what they found, basically display whatever they found, and you as a user have the best result. It sounds easy, it's a little bit more complicated, but this is the easy version of this. So when you talk about SEO, there's basically 3 main tactics: the technical optimization, the off-page, and the on-page. So the technical optimization is really make the page accessible to the search engine, make it clear, don't create any barriers that could cause any kind of confusion or something that they're choking up on. So this is the foundation that you need to create. The second thing is the off-page optimization, which is a lot links to the page from external websites. The on-page optimization, big factor, and we're going to go into this heavily now. So optimize the site content, you know, put keywords on the page, etc. And these are the areas when I talk about on-page optimization. It's really the content, the internal links. So if you click on something and you end up on another page, on the internal page. The header tags, meaning the headlines, the big headlines, the smaller headlines. The title tags, which is in the HTML code. The alt tags, which you can see on images when you hover over this. Meta description tags is also in the HTML code. So all this is on-page optimization, which all comes down to keyword. Keyword is the most important thing, and my colleague Alison is going to continue now with details on what keywords are and how you should use them.
Thank you. I just need this one. You can take that because I've got this. Hi there, I'm Alison Strawn, and I manage marketing and communications localization for the Adobe Experience Cloud. And I also work very closely with the in-house search team, some of whom are here tonight, managing localization processes and education in region. So I'm going to get into the bread and butter of, that's me on the left, by the way, of SEO, which is keywords. So keywords, as you've probably gathered, are the things that you type into Google, and hopefully Google will spit out a list of results that, that fit your needs. So what you want to do in SEO strategy is make sure that you're identifying the keywords that your customers or potential customers are searching for, and create content to support those keywords so that you rank high in those Google listings and you can reach the customers. So using the right keywords is key to the success of SEO. You can learn a lot about your customers by just looking at those keywords. For example, here, this is like a typical purchase conversion funnel that you might have seen in marketing. So at the awareness level, like typically when you're first searching for something, your search is kind of broad, and you know, you may not have narrowed down what you actually want to do at that point. So that might be something, in this case, like PDF or PDF file. And then in the consideration, you might be thinking, oh, what can I do with it, or what do I need to do with it? How do I do this? Then at that point, maybe you've identified a preference. Ideally, it might be at this point Adobe. And then at the conversion end, you know, you're ready to download something. Now, the number of searches on those really broad areas is going to be really high. There's going to be a lot of demand and competition for those words. Down at the conversion, you may not get as many, at Acrobat Read Download, you're not going to have as much search volume, but you know, those people are ready to convert, so you want to make sure that you're targeting for that as well. But you want to be aware of the keywords at every stage of the journey, right? So that when they're searching for PDF, even though there may be a lot of different companies or businesses that are trying to rank for that word, you know, ideally you're helping to create some awareness at that point. You're providing some how-to in the converter stage, and everywhere along the journey you want to think about how you can serve the customer with those keywords. So, just so you sound like an SEO expert, you should know what long tail and broad search is, and then you'll really fit in. So a broad search would be something like, I like tea kettles. So, but of course, you're going to get a lot of like variety of listings coming up at that point. So you need to think, you know, how am I going to serve that keyword at that point, and is it worth me doing so? Now, when I'm ready to purchase, I'm probably going to be using a long-tail keyword like orange electric tea kettle, which in fact I do have. And at that point, you know, I was ready to buy something. So that's something to consider as well. Those long-tail keywords, you're not going to get as much traffic for those, but those people are ready to convert. So, but it's not enough to just identify those keywords and go, oh, there's a high demand keyword, let me just sort of, you know, make sure I put that in my metadata. All of the content supports the success of your keyword, like everything that you all are localizing, all helps SEO just as SEO can help it, everything that you're doing.
And then ideally, if you're thinking about it in that way, if you want to sort of dominate that sort of golden triangle, as they call it, those first 3 listings that Uli talked about, which your eye is drawn to. So ideally, you've got a really good organic plan. So you're there at the top. You've got your paid search, which might be at the top or the right rail. You've got a video as well. You've got social. You've got a blog. And then you can sort of dominate those first 3 listings. Now, I'm going to focus, Josh is going to talk a little bit more about on-page optimization. This is part of on-page optimization, but it's kind of hidden in the back end, and that's your metadata. So you've got your title tag, which is what appears at the top of your website that sort of identifies, that web page. And then you've got your meta description, which kind of gives more information about the page. And both of those areas are areas that you want to put those high demand keywords into. So now so you can see there it is at the back end, and there, your title tag becomes the Google listing, and there's your meta description or snippet. Now that's, ideally your meta description is displaying there, but Google now can do whatever they want, really, and they might just pull out a little bit of content from the first paragraph of your page. They might do whatever, but ideally you want to make sure that that meta description really sings and it can be there. And so people are looking at that and clicking on it. So your title tag is typically 60 characters. That's about what is going to display on the page. So you've got to remember, in Japanese or any double byte language, it's going to be half that. And then the listing, the meta description itself, that's actually around 600 pixel area, which breaks down to about, it usually displays about 300 characters or less, but you can have a description that's longer than that because Google will crawl the rest of it, so that may help you as well. I try not to use the word spider because I don't like spiders. I come from a country where almost every spider is venomous. So the SEO localization process, I want to talk about that because I think it's somewhat unique at Adobe. So our search team, some of the search team are here tonight. So people like Kirill are working with editorial, web strategy, and all of those different teams when a new page is being created, and they're determining what the URL is, making sure everything, works from a keyword perspective before it hits us in localization. So at that point, we are taking that information to our vendors who've been trained in keyword research. They're localizing those keywords and testing them for demand. They're adding that information into the title and meta description. Then it goes back to our in-house search team for final approval. And then when the web page is being localized, the content on that web page, they're entering those keywords in at that point. So what works for us is a strong partnership in localization with the search team. SEO is not an afterthought. It's right there at the beginning of the process. We're training our vendors to do that keyword research. They're the same vendors that are doing the marketing localization. So we want them to think like search marketers in all of the translation they're doing. So a little more on researching keywords in region. So our vendors and reviewers use the keyword planner tool. So here you can look at the competition, you can look at the monthly demand. So this might be something that's handed off to us with the initial US country title tag and high demand keywords. So then we're entering our kind of own research in there. Some of the things you want to consider is, of course, and you know this in localization, you want to target not just the language but the region, and there's going to be regional differences. In fact, in French Canada, they're more likely to use a more French term. I mean, in France, they usually use email. There's an example. And then for UK, Australia, and so on, you want to make sure you're making those spelling changes. And just remember that, words might have a completely different meaning in another country, so then you're going to be using a completely different keyword altogether. So here are a couple of examples in Photoshop, like what our vendors might be doing initially to find the most popular keywords. They would be translating photo software and then just kind of looking in AdWords to see what comes up. And so here, you know, they're seeing global monthly searches for logiciel retouche photo, so that might be one that you would choose. Don't forget that in countries like Germany, you might end up actually optimizing for the English keyword. Maybe you'll do that like behind the scenes in the metadata, and maybe on the page you might want to use some PDF in Word umwalten, like if you want to keep the page itself in German. And SEO can actually solve linguistic disputes. So if you're in France, and this has happened to me because I work on the digital marketing side, and often there are words there that are being created before and adopted in region before they've had a chance to kind of translate that term or figure out what the translation is. That's pretty common in digital marketing. So, you know, maybe there's a question, you know, should we use marketing numérique or should we use marketing digital? Well, let's test them for demand and see what people are actually using, and maybe that's the word that we should use when we're writing the content. So just to summarize, select the most valuable keywords to support your content. Don't forget, like, the content needs to be holistic. You need to have other people linking to you. Uli talked about that. You want to make sure that you've got other content that supports it. And you really want to be thinking about that customer journey too. Like, what does your customer actually need? And at what point do they, you know, at what point are they in the journey, and how do I tailor the content to suit it? Use keywords in social media, PR, and other communications. And now my dear colleague Josh will get into the on-page optimization. Thanks for your time.
Hi, I'm Josh Squires. I'm senior SEO specialist at Tableau. It's a new role for Tableau. They've had people that have sort of dabbled in SEO but have never had a firm practice, so we're setting it up from scratch. A lot of things to learn in that journey, and it's been great hearing from these wonderful women who've got well-established SEO practices. I'm especially going to steal that process slide. We're going to talk a little bit about keyword implementation, now that you've learned how to do the research and what the value of doing that research is. So, placement of keywords, just a handful of places that they belong. You know, I think older practice, it was really common to just kind of cram them anywhere you could. People were known for putting them at the bottom of the page in text that was the same color as the background. We're well past those days. So we want to focus on things like the URL. Probably the most important place you could put it is in the URL. Currently at Tableau, we're fighting a battle with the more marketing-minded content creators. They love their catchy marketing titles, they love their puns, they don't love keywords. I get to rain on everybody's parade. I'm the least fun guy in the room. But we're getting there. And that also goes to title. The way our system's set up, and the way a lot of systems are set up, is your page title ends up being your URL. More custom systems will let you alter that. Ours does too, but most of our marketers aren't familiar with that, so it requires a little extra hand-holding to get that out there. First 100 words of body text. I think different people think differently about how important that is. From personal experience, I've seen it work. I think 9 times out of 10, if Google doesn't like the meta description you wrote, you know, you just heard about meta descriptions and titles. If Google doesn't like it, if it's not as relevant to the query as, say, the first paragraph of text you have on the page, Google will swap the meta description for your whatever section of text it finds is relevant to the query. So making sure that you've got that keyword in the first couple of sentences really kind of hits it home to Google and says, hey, we promise this is what this page is about. Periodically throughout the text, and we'll cover that a little more in depth, headings. I think we're all old enough in here to have used card catalog systems in school or the library, right? So same concept. There are hierarchies of information. There's ways to drill down through it, and every web page should be the same. You should say, this is the overarching topic of the page. Here's all these little points about this topic. So including that keyword in most, if not all of the headings as is pertinent. Don't force it where it doesn't belong, but in most cases, keeping it in the H1s and H2s is super important. And image alt text is the last one on there. And this one gets ignored virtually all the time. Only people with, well-established SEO practices really pay attention to this. And alt text is really just a tool for screen readers, right? It's an ADA compliant sort of tool, where if someone's using a screen reader and it hits the image, it says, this is what this image is showing, this is what it's about. And a lot of SEOs like to sort of alter that to be something that it isn't, to fit that keyword in just one more time. But if you've got a picture of a laptop, and we do this all the time at Tableau, if you look at the Tableau website, every other picture is a laptop. And so we do things like analysis conducted on a laptop if the page is about data analysis. We'll get a little creative with it. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I've gotten as an SEO is you need a lot of creativity to make some of these keywords fit in a semantic and reasonable contextual way. So I overtalked my second slide just a little bit. Titles and headings, very important. Keyword throughout the text is the one I really wanted to cover here. Talking about it in different points. If you've got a keyword that you're talking about on a page, if you're talking about dog pictures, and you just talk about dog pictures in the first paragraph, but then you run off on a tangent on something else, you're probably not going to rank really well for dog pictures. That's just kind of how it works out. Rich language and speaking naturally are probably two other really important points to hit. Keywords are great, but your attention should be on solving the searcher's problem and giving them the content that they're looking for. SEO is increasingly used as a marketing tool, but I don't really see it as a marketing tool, right? It's keeping data and concepts in an orderly fashion that allow search engines, which are the main mode of discovery these days, to be able to index that content and help searchers find it. So your job as an SEO is really to help people find the information they're looking for instead of trying to serve them an ad. Rich language, what I mean by that is synonyms and semantically related topics. If you're talking about dog pictures, dog photos, canine headshots, these are all sort of related things, right? If you mention these together in a body of text, Google's and other search engines are more than likely to pick up on the contextual clues that this is what we're talking about. And so, paying attention to synonyms, semantically related words, you do want to continue to use your keyword. You want to focus on one of those, but you do want to use all, your synonyms. You want to talk about other things, but be sure that as you're going down the page, your title has your keyword, your first paragraph of text has it, the H1, and then start getting a little creative, start swapping them out. Maybe put in a synonym in an H2 and maybe a synonym in your alt text, mix it up a little, but you definitely want to be sure that you're hitting your keyword in all the right places as well. Speaking of keywords, this is probably the most common problem you'll face is differences in language, and I think it goes two ways. You've got words that mean the same thing, but are two different words, right? Torch and flashlight was a great example. You're talking about the same object, and that's probably a thing Google could figure out, but your audience isn't attuned to that. You need to serve your audience. So if you're writing for folks that use British English, then Torch should be your default, and you should optimize for that. If you're in a scenario where the meaning's different but the word's the same, that's sort of a pitfall that people fall into all the time. I totally have the worst time remembering what word this is because it's not super common, but we had a case at Tableau where a marketing team had this huge campaign all set to go, and they go to publish it, and it goes through localization, and one of our in-country reviewers looks at it and says, I don't think this is the word you want to use. That doesn't mean what you think it means. And so it got pulled back, and it sort of derailed the campaign in that country when we had to go forward with every other country. But being aware of that as an SEO is super important too. I think a lot of times in our profession, we're looking at keyword volumes. We're not thinking as holistically as we should about the difference in language. And that's certainly a slip up I've seen in places is, well, I didn't take the time to look up that word in its context to understand what it means. I just see that, for British English searches, it's got a higher search volume than the American English. And so I thought that would be a good thing to go with. It's certainly a pitfall that people fall into. One-to-one translation versus the term that matches topic and intent. Again, topic and intent is the thing you should be optimizing for. Switch out keywords as necessary. If you've done the keyword research and you've got volumes to look at, go with the highest volume, but if you start to diverge from your meaning, you're sort of losing the spirit of the practice. And page structure matters too. I'm still to this day amazed at the number of websites that don't use headings in their text. Huge publishers do this. I've seen Wired and the New York Times and people who should know better, people I know how to write. They're not using headings, and I think for most of us, we're out there consuming this content on mobile devices. And what's a 1 or 2 page article on the Times on a desktop is like a 30, 40 flick scroll on a mobile device, and if I can't get the gist or get to the piece of content that I want to read within that piece, I might just not read it at all. So capturing search traffic for that is great, but if it's not formatted properly, no one's really going to read it. And that also works for the search engines too. The search engines are looking at those headings because while they do ingest the entire content of the page, having headings tells them how it's broken up, how you're specifically speaking to that topic, and it helps it digest it easier, faster, and in my experience, the easier you make it for the search engine to understand the intent of the page, the better you rank. Linking the content on or pages within your website that are related. I am super fortunate. I get to sit on my localization team at Tableau. My understanding is that's not a common place for SEOs to sit. Certainly a new experience for me. But I see them putting content out all the time, and Tableau's site isn't totally translated one-to-one for every language. We have 8 supported languages and a dozen test languages that we're trying out, and very few of those 8 primary languages are actually a one-to-one copy of the English site for numerous reasons. Cost, relevance, the market might not be developed for the product we're trying to sell at any given point in time. And so the only people who really know what those websites look like in the languages we're serving is our localization team. Their ability to memorize years of content is phenomenal, and I lean on it very heavily. When a piece comes through and the English page is linking to another page on the English site that is maybe another step down the funnel, like, well, here's what data analytics means, and then linking to a page about how you can do it. If that page doesn't exist in Japanese, what do you link to? As far as the marketing team's concerned, who cares? Not their problem. And that's sort of the way it's been, and my job and the localizations team job has been sort of leaning on them and saying, no, you need to have this planned before this even gets to us. And so trying to make those decisions, localization is a great place for those decisions to happen, and I think it really helps raise the value of localization in an organization. One, you'll likely see conversions rise. If you're helping identify pages further down the funnel or pages that are enriching a learning experience on your site that other people don't have visibility into, that's a value to the company, it's a value to the user, it's 110% worth doing. And I think when it comes to translation and localization, you guys are probably going to be the only ones that can do it. So a little extra credit. This is going a little above and beyond, and we've already talked a little bit about how Google's not the only search engine out there, right? Other search engines do things a little differently. Google is very advanced. They've got some really impressive linguistic capabilities. They understand intent and implied meaning, and not all the search engines around the world are there yet. Baidu, for example, is what you would call a fast follow. As long as they've been around, they're making leaps at a pace that they're going to catch up to Google eventually. So doing for Google and then putting that into Chinese for Baidu to consume, it won't work fantastic right now, but it will. What you can do to help it in the meantime is pay attention to little things like a meta keywords value. This is just an HTML tag that says, these are the keywords for this page. It's really upfront. It should ideally be the term you were optimizing for. If you're optimizing for a long tail keyword, something that's more than just, two to I'd say maybe 3 or 4 words, you might try to shorten it to something a little bit shorter. But that sort of says to Baidu, if you're having a little trouble, this is sort of the realm we're dealing with. Keyword placement, Baidu's also a little old school. It likes it in the places Google liked it 5-6 years ago. It wants to see it up front in the first position at the head of sentences, plain and clear and simple. I assume Baidu probably doesn't want to ingest your entire page if it doesn't have to. I think there's a lot of questions about how thoroughly it consumes pages. I've seen some pretty suspicious stuff, so for a lot of our Chinese content, we put, keyword probably twice in the first paragraph, at the beginning of titles, make it loud and clear in the URL, just making it pretty undeniably obvious what we're talking about. And so we already talked a little bit about process. I think it can be different for everybody. I'm still figuring mine out, but I've had some great instances where what I know as a writer, my start was in copywriting. I did not go to school to be an SEO. I just sort of fell into it as a copywriter. It seemed like a great way to get people to read my stuff. And so in doing that, I've taken my writing process, the process I've had at agencies and with creative directors, and I'm doing that with SEO and localization. I'm saying, here's what I've got, here's what I want, here's what we're trying to solve for. And I'll pass that off to in-country reviewers, in-country researchers, and say, bring me all the data you have. Yeah, I want keyword volumes, but go take a look around, do some searches, tell me what other people are writing about. Is this something that's really searched and you're not finding good content on it? If that's, half of the number of searches of a piece of content or a query that there is a ton of great content on, me personally, I'd rather go after the piece that isn't well covered. Greater opportunity for me, greater chance to make a name for yourself. Sort of relying on each individual search engine's user experience and the things that will surface when people search has been hugely helpful. And so they'll come back with that research, and I get a little spreadsheet with, here's the terms, here's the volumes, here's some notes. And then we'll sort of review that and say, maybe not A, but B sounds like a great opportunity. Let's spend our time there. It'll go out, they'll localize, they'll translate as needed, they'll work the keywords in, and it comes back to the in-country viewer. They take a look and say, yes or no. We've had cases where SEO is new to a lot of folks, and it seems like it's relatively uncommon in localization. And so you get the accidental keyword stuffing. Like, well, you asked me to put a bunch of words in this, so I did. And sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. Unfortunately, I'm monolingual. I don't speak any other languages, so I have to rely a lot on people around me to say, this isn't what you want, or based on what you've told us about this page, I don't think we're answering the question as thoroughly or in the proper context. So to that extent, going back to earlier slides, defining what it is you want out of that content is hugely important. I think one thing just about everybody leaves out is monitoring post-publishing. SEO has never been and will never be a one-and-done thing. Just because you optimized it, localized it, sent it out into the world, that's never going to be the last step. Your SEOs should be monitoring, how it's performing in search, and if it's, if you're ranking #1, great, but how are people clicking through? Are the people that are clicking through converting? There's always something missing after the first try, and you've got to find out what's missing, how you can go back through and optimize it, and it's just a recurring process. You never really stop. And that sort of wraps it up for me. I think that implementation for SEO is probably the most challenging part. Research, there's tons of tools out there. They make it really simple. I've been overjoyed over the years to just hand the research off to interns. You don't have to be an expert. It's easy, it's kind of fun. You learn a lot as you go. Implementation is sort of like when you buy a new car, you got to take it back to the dealership, and they've got to tighten all the lugs and make sure nothing rattled loose, after the first time you took it out. And sometimes you want to go back and change the title, and sometimes it's just not a good piece of content. A lot of people don't talk about that. A lot of people are quick to publish content, but not quick to unpublish content. If your content doesn't meet your need, then you need to pull it back in. I think that's it for me. I believe.
I'm stuck to something. I got one. Thank you. I think I need the clicker, though. Do you have a clicker? Thank you. All right. How many of you guys work at all or work with people who have anything to do with the website domain name? Okay. Okay. This is a good thing to know, even if you are not in charge of it. If you're putting content out there, there's a difference in how it ranks in search engines. So another question, how many of you gone into Google and changed your language settings so you get something back in a different language? Okay, all right, cool. More of you. So if I'm in the US right now and I speak Spanish and I want my search results in Spanish, I might go into Google and I might change my settings so that the search results come in Spanish. So now Google needs to find results that say, this is a website targeted for US users, but in Spanish. Maybe I'm in France and I want my search results in German. So Google has to, at googlefr.com.fr, whatever it is, Google France. Now Google France has to bring up search results that are targeted at people in France, but in the German language. So how do they do that, right? Part of the highest level of anything you can look at in localization from the website is whether you're going to use a CCTLD, which is country code top level domain or something like that. And that's when you have dot blah blah here. Subdomain is when you have something on, this could be language or this could be anything. I could be like, I want it to be like sports dot something and games dot something. Or it could be a language if you want it to be, if you want to target it that way. And the third one, directory level, is when you have your site.com and you have the languages or the countries or whatever you're going to target in the directory level. The easier ones for Google to figure out are the top two, especially the top one, because a CCTLD is like, doesn't really mean anything else. Well, I guess some of them can, but some of them are targeted specifically at language. Like there's others like .biz or something like that, or .gov. But there's several, many, maybe all, I'm not sure, that are targeted at languages or locations. Subdomain is a little easier for Google and search engines to figure out because it's a pretty fine line there. And then directories are the hardest for search engines to figure out. They're usually the easiest for engineers to implement, though. If you ask your engineering team to buy all the subdomains, all the CCTLDs out there and manage those, they may not like you. The same thing with subdomains, they're a little harder to manage. So we can get into a lot about that, and maybe if you guys have some questions, we can talk about some specific examples. When you target the website, anybody here use Google Webmaster Tools or been in Webmaster Tools before? Oh, it's so cool. Okay, so it's free. Just like it's so fun. If you can set it up for your own site, or if whatever site you're working on, if you can get in there and look around, you can see all kinds of things like what search terms is your site ranking for now, how many impressions are you getting versus clicks, all kinds of things like that. It also allows you to, it's sort of like Google crawling your site, and Bing does it too, and some of the other ones have really horrible ones. Naver's really hard to work with. But it's Google saying, we crawled your site, here's some stuff for you. Maybe you want to optimize some of this stuff, maybe you want to help us out, and here's some information, and it's free. If you're targeting a site, so Netflix has we have our countries in directories. And so one of the things we want to do is go into Webmaster Tools and say /AU means we're trying to target people in Australia. Everything under this directory right here, all the content we have under AU, we're trying to target people in Australia. Simple to do, doesn't always work because Google takes this as a hint, not a directive, but you should do it, and it's free. And then hreflangs. Anybody ever hear of hreflangs? Okay, cool, yeah, all right. So this looks really super technical and boring probably, but it's another way to target. So you can target by just language, or you can target by language and country. And why would you want to do one versus the other, right? Does anybody have a website where they target language and country? Ah, okay. Anybody just targeting language? What's that? Both. Okay, yeah, okay, good. Some examples I'm going to show you, two of them are also on Netflix. The Netflix Help Center targets just language. The Netflix website where our shows and stuff are target language and country. And the reason why we did it that way is because if you're targeting, for Netflix titles, we have licenses, and the licenses are different in every country. So even if we have everything in English or everything in French, we still have to target, we have different content we target in different countries, regardless of the language. So we're trying to target language and country, which is harder to do. If you can target just language and get away with it, it's a little bit easier to do. It's easier to rank correctly, I should say. And the Help Center, we have for Netflix Help, it's help.netflix.com. Everything there is also in directory levels, but it's just language, because we're not really showing different content on the Help Center to different people in different languages, maybe here and there, but countries. But most of it's just by language. So what this code is here, this is something you'll find either in the website, in the code of the page, each page itself, or it can be put in a different file, but usually you'll find it in the code of the page. And what this says, what this tells search engines is, I have this page, it's example.com, and there are duplicates of this page I want to target this same page in English in Ireland, in English in Canada, English in Australia, and then for everybody else that's English, here's this other URL for them. Also, just a hint, not a directive, unfortunately, but we use it to try to help Google or search engines understand, hey, if I have Irish English, and that's different from Australian English on my site, I want them to go here instead of here. So that's what that's for. An example of this is just the language one. So this is the Netflix Help page. This is it in action right here. So on this page in the code, it says, here's this URL, en node 412. Here's my German, FI, Finland, Finnish, Portuguese, BG, what's BG? Bulgarian. I've got Bulgarian, French, Chinese, SV, what's SV? Oh, man. This is great, I could use you guys. And you can see the URLs are different, right? So what this says is if Google sees this page and the search engine, or the searcher has their search results set to, they want finished results, then really Google should be bringing up this page. This is a Netflix.com page, www for the shows. And so what you see here is a show page for Stranger Things. And in this case, we're targeting language and country. So for every single page out there, it shows, Netflix is in almost every country, so almost every country is listed here as an alternate. And really what we're trying to do is avoid duplicates. So all the countries out there that Netflix is in English, usually, unfortunately, the .com EN US page shows up because that's the strongest. Over time, the idea is that some of this will start to kick in, backlinks from localized places will start to kick in, and the right things will start to rank in the right places. But that's what this is all for and what this is all about. And it's important to have these things in place when you're trying to target different countries and different languages, because the duplicate issue is really big. Like everything in French in every country, usually you'll have like one French site or one part of your site that's in French that'll show up everywhere. So this is to help try and avoid that, trying to sort it out correctly. That's it.
You guys have chairs? Chair?
Do you want to be in a certain order? Like the way we spoke, or?
Uli doesn't have a mic, so we're going to share.
Oh,
okay. Who didn't learn something? Great, tons of hands. What questions do you have? This is an amazing panel. Thank you guys so much. I really learned a ton, so really appreciate you all being up here. So I have some questions here while you guys think of the questions you want to ask. I think there is a mic. Michelle, you have a mic? Okay. So there is a mic for questions from you guys. So let's start with, what SEO change do you see happening in 2018? What's the big change of this year? So we can just go down the line with thoughts.
Well, mobile, definitely, that's mentioned left and right. Another thing, schema.org, which is a categorization of what is what on the page.
It used to, when I saw this question, my initial thought is that things used to change that quickly, and they don't change that quickly anymore. Regardless, there's hundreds of algo updates all the time, every year. Probably, definitely every day even. We just don't notice them. They're not as big as, and as often as they used to be, as exciting. Mobile is definitely one that Google has hyped up for this year. And it does seem a little bit harder. The one thing that I really have my eye on, though, is the search results where, like, when you search for something like Stranger Things is a great example, you'll see the knowledge panels, and especially in mobile, the knowledge panel pushes everything down. And so your first result could be several scrolls down, and they've been doing tons of work around that, especially in mobile. So on top of mobile, it's that knowledge panel. And if you can use your schema, actually, to get into that knowledge panel, then that's a good markup to have on your pages.
Do you want to define schema a bit more?
Oh, why do I have
this?
Schema is markup that says, so schema is markup for every element of the page. And you can go to schema.org, and you can see if you've got a video on the page, you've got an image on the page, you have an actor on the page, things like that. You can tell search engines this is exactly what every little piece of information actually is. And then they use it in their knowledge panel and push the results down.
Right, so they might pull that out instead of the meta description or whatever in the Google listing. Is that right?
Schema?
A snippet, no, of that, no?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Possibly.
I thought I'd seen that. Yeah. Anyway, So I would sort of echo mobile, you know, and also speed of your website as well. But I think everyone's thinking about how to make their sites more mobile friendly too, and thinking about that fat finger kind of go, you know, like making sure that you can push everything, and that, you know, the sort of, if you've got a call to action and so on, that you can actually get in there and it's easy to do it. Because I know often with mobile, I'll find that I then have to go back to my laptop or something to fill something in because it's just too annoying. Things like that. So I think, you know, since so many more people are using mobile, and because Google is really dinging you if your site is not responsive and so on, I think thinking about mobile is big.
I want to step outside the box. I think censorship is going to be a big search feature.
In America?
Yes. So obviously over the last year, we've had issues with misinformation, disinformation, people not being able to find trustworthy sources or recognize a trustworthy source. Even all of the fake made-up news sites that people are out there putting up look pretty real. And Google and Facebook themselves have sort of started to take it upon themselves to figure out how they're going to set these things apart. And that's great. That's sort of important for the wider, news world, for content creators at large. But I think it's going to inadvertently affect companies. I think people trying to make a name for themselves in certain spaces are going to fall victim to algorithm potholes, and you might not show up where you want to show up. And I think leveraging things like schema, working on your domain authority, and figuring out how to establish yourself in a new space where Google knows that you're a software company or an architectural firm. If you're out there doing what people are considering thought leadership pieces, right? That's a big trend in content marketing currently. If you're out there doing that, how directly does that align to what your business does, and should you be ranking for that? I think that's probably going to be one of the bigger things we see.
That's great. So I have prepared questions here, but you sent us down a whole different rabbit hole. So I've got to ask the panel a question, but first we'll give them a second to think. The question's going to be, how much of a difference does brand play in rankings? So while the panel's thinking of their answers, who here works at a Fortune 100 brand?
There's one.
That's it? Okay. So now you guys are going to answer how much the three people here, and I think there's more than three of you, how much the three people here are benefiting from the fact that they work for a Fortune 100 brand when it comes to search rankings. Do they benefit? Julie.
I'm at a Fortune 5.
How nice for you.
I think we do benefit, but in terms of the proof, it's just intuition.
Okay. Fortune 100?
Are we a Fortune 100? I don't know. Having worked with enterprise sites and small business, there's no doubt enterprise sites have an advantage of having a domain name that has brand recognition, so people type it right in a lot of times. That gets a lot of links. It usually has an older domain that has built up authority over time, whereas small businesses have to be scrappier. And it's unfortunate, and Google hasn't really been great to small businesses, but it's been getting slightly better over the years. But you have to get scrappier in the content you put out there, and really build from the ground up, optimized in order to compete. And the bigger brands don't necessarily have to do that. Probably not what you want to hear.
Yeah, I think we definitely benefit from brand, and also from products that have been around forever that people just know. You Photoshop something, right? So of course there's going to be benefit that comes from that. But I think you can find the gaps, right? If you're a business, that's what you've got to do. A small business, you've got to analyze the competition. You've got to see where it is that they might be missing out in a keyword, and really sort of do that research and try to find that area that hasn't been covered. And I think it also really goes back to really pinpointing what it is that your identifiable, the customer that you're going after really needs, and analysing their customer journey and making sure that you're there every step of the way so that they're finding you.
Right, why are you in it if there's somebody else, a big brand in it? You must have something to bring to the table, and you have to highlight that and market it.
Yeah, I think that's still possible.
I agree with all that. But I think there's probably, it's probably worth pointing out that you can be strongly branded and not be a big company. I hadn't ever really given any thought to it. Working at Tableau sort of woke me up. They're big in their space, but there's tons of competition. There's competition older than them, but they have a super strong, super dedicated community of just diehard analysts. That's what helps them rank. They've got
Tableau it?
Not yet, but you will.
So this room is probably clear proof that brands have like a bigger pool of resources to compete on SEO. Smaller companies aren't going to have a localization team. They're going to have a Fiverr or Upwork or Freelancer and do some translation. And good localized content gives an edge. So even if there isn't an SEO impact, Google doesn't really like the brand, it would seem that better content, more localized content, better translated content would give that edge from user experience and then lead to better results. So on that, does user experience matter for SEO?
Strongly, very strongly. I think Google SEO in general is going more and more into conversion rate optimization, so which is directly related to user experience. So Google obviously wants to avoid that you click on a search results page, or you click from a search results page on a page and you click right away at the back button. So therefore, sites focus more and more on user experience and conversion rate optimization. So yes, it has a strong impact.
Yeah, because it's harder to game that from an SEO standpoint, and that's what Google's been working towards, is a better user experience. That's what they want to bring up. As a company, they want good search results, and it's super complicated, and how you would target more user experience versus how we game SEO. But yeah, also, one more little thing on that is, like, I'm sure you guys have all seen it, pages that are half translated. That's a horrible thing for a search engine to try to figure out. Like, what is this? What language am I really targeting here? But it's also a user experience issue as well. And so if a user isn't going to stay on the page or convert, that's going to show in the same way you just mentioned, that a lot of times there'll be no conversion, people won't stay on the page as long, they'll click back to search results, and all those things count.
So from a localization perspective, on that user experience, you've got to be aware that other countries, might see things or want a different expression of that page. So in Japan, they like it to be really visual, so you're going to have more, images on those pages. So that's another thing that you might be thinking about in terms of making sure that the people stay on the page. And then I think also it's remembering in terms of user experience and customer retention that, before when I showed that customer funnel, like once that person's sort of downloaded or bought the product, that's not the end of the SEO. Like, you want to make sure that you're sort of optimizing so they stay customers, and you've got other content that you're providing for them that's supporting that, kind of keeping them as a customer too, and sort of optimizing for that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's very, if a tree falls in a forest, right? If you appear in search results, but nobody converts, is it worth it?
Right.
And links. You want users to get excited and link to you. That's huge.
Right.
So any questions? You guys had time to think of them?
Here you go.
Okay, we'll start over there. Michelle's got the mic.
So SEO is about one thing at the center, right? It's quality. And it's about doing things right and doing the right things as well. So my question is, how do you guys manage the discussions with the marketing teams that sometimes are pushing for more catchy things like you mentioned? I'd like some insights of how you guys manage these discussions in doing fewer things and doing things right with really good quality versus super optimize for excitement and all this other stuff.
Can we have a dirty example?
I have a lot from our customers, but I want your examples.
Okay. Anyone want to answer?
I'm not sure I understand how being super, I'm not putting it together, the super excited part and how that affects SEO.
I guess sometimes marketing teams try to optimize with catchy keywords that are not necessarily related to the content of the page, right? So they're trying to create kind of fake excitement sometimes and try to do flashy things versus actual things that have substance and have a lot to do with user experience. Have you guys came across this with your work with the marketing teams?
Yes, I have. I worked in news publishing before, where the editors tried to make the catchy headline. That was the draw. You know, they felt that users needed to smile when they read that headline. And a story here, which is really true, and as we are under an NDA, so I started at a news publishing site, and I looked at the most common keywords that generated traffic to that site. And among the top 10 was butts and big butts. I almost fell off the chair. So I couldn't make any sense of this because it was a very reputable news publishing site. I looked it up. After a long time, I eventually found an article that was, I think at the time it was 6 years old. And it was about a Nike campaign that used a woman's butt. And the headline was, "Nike's big butt is bold and beautiful." So I had a good example for the news publishing team to say, yes, it does get us traffic, but it's the wrong traffic. So, you know, from then on, it was really the good saying, like, you know, pay attention to every word that you pay in the headline.
Well, you can also work with your marketing team. So I've had this problem for years working in agencies. Everybody wants that catchy marketing title, right? They want them. Copywriters love puns, it's like to a fault. And so let them have what they want. Work with the dev teams, have them restyle the page. Let them have that crazy marketing headline, make it be the H1. And you can have, you know, your regular SEO perfect title, and you can hide the title on the page, and it only shows up in the tab, and they never notice, and everybody's super happy.
So to summarize what you guys said, educate the marketers.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's about internationalization too, sometimes too, right? Just what might work on the North American side might not work at all in region. And so often, you know, we're having those conversations. So maybe they have to do something completely different in country.
Okay, one question, and then you guys can mob the panelists like rock stars.
Who can put their hand up highest?
Thank you. Do you have any idea how long it takes, once I change a keyword, for example, how long it would take for Google search, for example, to discover it? I mean, and do we know how long it takes for something like Google search to crawl the whole internet? Like, is there a number of days, or do we know this?
It's like the question of the night.
So you can, when you search for anything, look in the search results, and right next to, I think it's right next to the URL, you see a little down triangle, and you can click on that and you can see the cached version of the page. And the cached version is the last time that Google, at the top it'll have a date, and that's the last time that Google crawled that page. So some sites, especially news sites or sections of sites even, that have content that updates more often, Google will come back and crawl that more often. Sometimes Google doesn't come back and crawl stuff for months, depending on how popular or how much it sees it change. So if you change something and Google doesn't crawl again for another month, it won't pick it up till then, right? So there's that factor. Then in terms of like how long it would take to affect rankings, there's other factors involved, but one of those things would be if you change something on one page versus if you change something on everything under a directory level in a URL, you might see changes, bigger changes and quicker if everything changed under that directory level in the URL versus if one thing changed or one thing changes in separate places.
And also, if you want to have something quicker to be crawled again, put it on the home page, because the fewer clicks from the home page, the quicker it gets seen.
And if you're using Webmaster tools, you can go in and submit it for a recrawl.
So if you're publishing new content and you're waiting to see how long it takes to show up in search results, you definitely want to be sure to share the links, make sure it's linked to from other pages on your site. Like I said, Tableau does a lot of test languages, and I had never in my career given this any thought. We published 3 pages in Danish and just put them out there. And nobody at the company other than the Loc team knew that they existed, and they were not shared. They were not linked to from other pages on the site. Google never hit those pages. They were never crawled, and we couldn't figure it out. And then one day we saw one of them started showing up in search results, and we couldn't figure out what was different. So we started, just tearing the web apart, trying to figure out what changed. Someone in a regional office shared one of those pages on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden it started to rank. So if you're not seeing things show up in search that should, try sharing it, make sure other pages on the site link to it.
Yeah, and to echo that, part of the Google algorithm is that they're looking for other reputable, outside links, and obviously LinkedIn would be one. But, so you want to reach out to other, sites that Google knows and recognizes and trusts, and then, have them linked to you. Makes a big difference.
So I think that might go back to the earlier question we had about brand. So the stronger your brand is, the faster that works, the more links you've had, the faster it works. I know at SurveyMonkey about 4 years ago, we launched our Turkish translated site, and I watched in our logs as we launched it to see how fast Google would come and crawl it, and then how fast they would index it. And with it, we had a link in the footer. So within about 2 minutes after launching it, Google was already crawling the site, and within 24 hours, it had already indexed it and started ranking it in Turkish. So depends on the brand. So please join me in thanking the panelists. We're all here to answer your questions. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks so much. We really appreciate it. I know everyone in the audience wanted to ask more questions, so yeah, thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So we have one more slide, guys. I just wanted to announce that our next meeting will be May 3rd. It's going to be at eBay, and it's going to be on mentoring. We will have about 15 localization experts there to be your mentors, professionals, and we will split the group in students on one side being mentored, and on the other side will be professionals. So it will be a very similar format to what we had last year, but we have taken into account the feedback you gave us through the survey that you took, and we will make sure that we adjust it accordingly so that you get more time with your mentors, and you also get to be with professionals versus students. So thank you. I hope you guys will join us at eBay on May 3rd. Thanks everyone for coming. Bye.